Welcome to I Drink Your podcast, where we drink and talk about movies from 2007.
Can't stop what's coming.
So, cool beans.
Cool beans.
Mixing his character and his real name. Okay.
We have fun.
How about a suicide pact?
What are you trying to be, an Irish R&B singer?
Oh, it's because he's 60 years old. 60 years old. The alcohol's working.
We need water.
I drink your podcast. I drink it up.
Welcome back, everybody, to another exciting episode of I Drink Your Podcast. This is Matt, and we are listening to the fun Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story today. And just to do some housekeeping up front, everybody, if you could just subscribe to the podcast, and if you like what you hear, be sure to rate us. Now, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce everybody and ask you what you're drinking. So, Ben.
So not only did I listen to Walk Hard, I watched Walk Hard.
I did too. It was a better experience.
It was.
A lot of visual gags that you'd miss if you had your eyes closed and were just listening. But I have this hard cream soda shot, which is 2 parts root beer, 1 part Goldschlager, and whipped cream.
Wow, that looks like a hard shot to take.
Well, I made it a little big.
Yeah, for the listeners, Ben is holding a straight up cup.
And it just looks like fucking mush.
I bought Ready Whip to use, and my daughter ate it all with strawberries yesterday. So I had to use Cool Whip, which is not mixing as well. It's not good, folks.
Okay, Wesley, what are you drinking today?
I am drinking some Walk Hard orange cream soda, and I couldn't come up with anything to mix it with, so I'm just drinking that.
Okay, fun. Emily, what do you got?
It's all right.
I am drinking a blackberry bourbon smash from Alabama. And it's the Bourbon Drinkers Mojito. It's got some fresh muddled lime, blackberry, mint, and bourbon. And it is quite tasty.
So you put a lot of work into that.
Clearly the fanciest drink.
It's really all Corbin's doing. He's the fancy cocktail maker. And so he helped me make this one.
Beautiful.
Matt, what are you drinking?
So I've got a Walk Hard vodka grapefruit. It's just vodka grapefruit, a little bit of cherry concentrate and agave to balance it out. And it is tasty and strong. So sorry if I start slurring my words, guys.
It's the moneymaker right there.
It's perfect for this movie that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, so let me turn it over to Ben.
Yeah, so just to give a quick rundown of how the episode's going to go today, we're going to spend the first half of the podcast discussing and reviewing Walk Hard, and then the second half will feature our Battle of Twits, where Matt and I will compete in a creative competition inspired by this movie. And we did watch Walk Hard, which is directed by Jake Kasdan, and features John C. Reilly, Jenna Fischer, and Kristen Wiig. Now, before we get into the movie, let's just talk real quick. This movie starts with a childhood trauma for Dewey Cox. So I'm really curious, like, what childhood traumatic event did you experience?
Do you want one of us to go first? Or
I want me to go first.
Okay.
So mine's pretty simple. It's trees.
Trees?
Trees. When I was young, I
Did
lived
they
in the...
bark at you?
Oh, my.
I knew Wesley would like that one.
Save those puns for B-movie.
But yeah, when I was young, I lived in the wilderness of rural Pennsylvania, and I spent all of my free time, which was all of my time, climbing trees. One specific tree taught me a lot about physics, specifically how much tension a young tree can hold and gravity. You can imagine it didn't end well.
Was that the ugly tree and you hit every branch on the way down?
I've hit that tree many a times. I also had a run-in while playing tag with some friends. When I was like running from them, I turned around to look to see who was chasing me. When I turned back forward, I caught the freshly cut corner of a pine tree branch right about an inch under my right eye. So I still have a pretty vicious scar from that. But I do have to say I still do love trees.
Okay. I liked how you clarified that you had free time, like you weren't working as a child. You weren't the boss baby.
Hey, some people aren't so lucky.
Okay, I guess I'll go next. My childhood trauma, if you guys want to be a little therapist for me. My parents and my older brother butt heads a lot when I was a kid. So I feel like that kind of led to me being like a little church boy peacemaker, where I always just want people to be happy, and I hate conflict, and that's just from being like a young child and seeing people fight. So I think that's where you get the soft, lovable Matt that you guys know and love.
Emphasis on the soft. I've seen your workout videos.
Matt, are you a younger sibling?
Yeah, I'm the youngest, and it's definitely an oops baby situation.
Oh,
I've embraced it. It's fine.
Oops adult also.
Lean in.
okay. Well, I am not the youngest, but I'm the middle, and I have an older sibling. So maybe you experienced some, I guess, hazing from your siblings. I know Ben's an older sibling, and I know you probably tormented your brothers. But my older sister, Renee, love her dearly. She traumatized me pretty good multiple times. There was one time she told me that the tooth fairy was going to come and rip out all my teeth.
Wow.
There was another time that when I was really excited for the Easter Bunny to come, she said that the Easter Bunny had red eyes and would attack my face Monty Python style if I went downstairs too early.
Wow.
Yeah, she's 4 years older than me, so she was like 8. Yeah. But my personal favorite, I was pretty young. I was probably like 4 or 5, and I was super excited because I really wanted to be an astronaut. I was obsessed with space. And I also wanted to be a teacher because my parents were teachers. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to be a teacher astronaut. And so Renee told me, well, you know what they do, the teachers and astronauts, they send them up into the sky and explode them, because she had just learned about.
No.
She just saw the Challenger.
Learned about the Challenger explosion.
She was just passing on knowledge. That wasn't false for her.
Yeah. So here's to you, Renee. I'm not an astronaut, but I am a teacher.
2 things. Did you guys know that there's I have a masterclass subscription, and there's an astronauts masterclass?
Did you take it?
I haven't taken it yet, so sure, it's just like be the best you can be.
Nope, that's the Army.
here's an airtight suit. Don't let anything poke it. I don't know.
That's the Navy.
That's wild, Emily. Oh my God.
Yeah. Ben, do you have any hazing stories?
Well, definitely, but I was the hazer. So if my brothers were here, they would have a lot to talk about. But my traumatic event, when I was 9, I found a rabbit, and I'd never had a pet before. So I put it in a box and brought it into my house, and I was going to keep it as my pet. And the first night, I obviously didn't know what to feed it, so I gave it a full head of lettuce. And I woke up the next day, and the lettuce was gone, and he was dead. And that traumatic event caused me to never have a pet till I was 34 years old, because I was always worried about killing it.
And is that why you became a science teacher?
Yeah, I wanted to figure out how to bring him back.
Wait, why did the rabbit die? I don't actually
think it
know.
just overate like a full head of lettuce inside a rabbit. The math just doesn't work.
Oh, okay.
Jesus. And you have a pet now. I
do have a pet now. I have a 1-year-old dog named Podrick. He's a corgi.
And you're doing a lot of Googling. Is it safe to give avocados to dogs?
Oh,
it's
all
not.
the time.
How many heads of lettuce can a corgi eat?
Right.
When you first started telling that story, Ben, all I could imagine was Kevin from The Office and rolling over in the middle of the night and kneeing the rabbit to death. But that's a different kind of trauma. But guys, we open on this movie at a Dewey Cox concert, where we learn that Dewey has to think about his whole life before he can perform. Brilliant way to flash back into an entire movie.
Fun storytelling device for sure.
So we flash back to his childhood, where his brother Nate and Dewey proceed to enter into increasingly life-threatening games with each other, from being chased by a charging bull to a machete fight in which Dewey accidentally cuts the top half off of his brother. His father blames Dewey
many times.
Yeah, his father blames Dewey for Nate's death, stating that the wrong son died. Boy, what a fun running gag that one was, guys. Did you all laugh every time?
Yeah.
I actually did.
I did.
Yep.
Damn it. And also, Dewey lost his sense of smell. So then Dewey learns the blues, even without his sense of smell, because he learned to play the guitar by ear. You guys laugh at that joke too? He gets kicked out of his house because he plays the devil's music and leaves with Edith, played by Kristen Wiig.
A 12-year-old.
Yep.
His music gets noticed, and he gets a record contract or something similarly hilarious. And in the studio with a band he's never met before, makes some jokes, and then he sings his fame-creating song, Walk Hard. While Dewey's on tour, he begins to do marijuana and partying with naked men and women. His mother dies by dancing to his song and falling out of a window. Then the radio literally crushes her head. And after receiving the news of his mother's death from Pa, Dewey finds cocaine, which turns all your bad feelings into good ones.
Not wrong.
How do you know?
I've read the internet.
Okay.
Wes, I'm getting from your tone that you didn't
I
really
didn't
like
like
this
it.
movie.
I didn't like
Wow.
it.
Damn.
I did not.
Also,
I did not
this
like
is one
this
of Matt's
at all.
favorite movies.
I know.
Matt, is it really?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, without bearing belief, I think it's a perfect movie in terms of parody. I mean, it starts off so fun. Okay, so like the kids, they're like,
Children's
ain't
death
nothing
is always
bad
fun.
gonna happen to us. and then the way that he kills his brother is chopping him in half.
I did laugh really hard at that. When he's looking up at him and he's like, you got to be double great. And then they had the multiple jokes of quarter and half. And I
Yeah.
lost my shit. Might be because I'm a math teacher, but that was funny.
Yeah.
I don't know. You guys can see my expression. This is how I watched the entire movie. I did not
He
smile
is
a
not-
single time.
What?
It wasn't horrible. I didn't like hate myself. I watched it all the way through. It's better than other movies we've seen. But my God, I did not laugh, smile, smirk.
Damn.
Man,
Chuckle.
that really surprises me because last week or 2 weeks ago, when you were talking about what makes a movie something you like, you said you like movies that surprise you, and this movie is all about the surprise joke.
Yes, thank you for making my exact point. Every single joke in this movie is set up a minute before it lands. They tell you every single thing that they're going to do before they do it.
I disagree with that full-heartedly.
I mean, they have running jokes going on. They set them up like in the first act and second act, and they have that later on.
Mm-hmm.
But I also wouldn't say that they're all surprise jokes. But I don't know, Wesley.
good
It was
mix.
it was very strange to me to think that you didn't like this movie. I would have thought this would for sure be one of your favorites after watching it.
Very, very, very far from the top.
Did you
of the
have any
list.
smiles in Act 1, Wesley? Like maybe when Tim
Matt,
Meadows
listen-
is like,
Matt,
he's
listen to
got to.
I did not smile once.
You're lying to me, dude. Dewey Cox has to think about his whole life before he performs.
There was a sequence of 3 jokes in a row that had me laughing really hard. It was, I'm cut in half pretty bad, the brother, and then it gets to the doctor, and he says it's a particularly bad case of getting cut in half. and then the dad says, speak English, doc, we ain't scientists.
I did write those first 2 down also, but not because they made me smile, but just because I was like, that's okay.
Okay.
Oh my
Well,
God.
I mean, even with the ain't nothing bad gonna happen to us when they're going through and they're doing every possible dangerous thing as kids, and then they die he dies because he gets cut in half with a machete. I lost my shit.
Yeah, they're throwing snakes at each other and like running away from bulls. And I think you already alluded to it. Like Kristen Wiig in a full-grown John C Reilly, like addressing their age in the dialogue. They're like, "I'm a 14-year-old boy," and she's like, "Me, a 12-year-old girl, going to live with Dewey Cox." It's just so fun, and there's a lot of surprise jokes as well.
I really like the line, too, from John C. Reilly later where he's talking to Edith and he says, it's unrealistic for me to be here every time you have a baby. Because one of the jokes is that she just keeps having more and more babies.
And I don't know if you all thought this, but for a while, I thought that the babies just weren't growing up. She just had a series of babies and they were just babies. None of them were growing up.
And I like how they set up her character, Kristen Wiig's character, as well. Like, she doesn't believe in Dewey Cox, but she still loves him. She's like, she like, instead of saying I loved you, she's like, you're never gonna make it. I love you.
You're never gonna make it, Dewey Cox.
So fun.
So this movie really finds most of its humor from being a parody of musician biopics. And there are a lot of tropes that it throws at you in the way that it's narratively structured. So I wrote some of those down, and credit to Patrick Willems, who does a phenomenal video on musician biopics and what the problem with him is.
Ben.
Yeah, Emily introduced me to him, and he's phenomenal. But most musician biopics, and the 2 main ones that this one skewers, are Walk the Line and Ray, especially in the first act. A lot of the stuff from that is from Walk the Line, with a little bit of Ray thrown in. It starts at the end with a performance of some kind that they're then calling back to childhood, where the musician encounters a tragedy. And the tragedy in Dewey Cox's life is very similar to the one that Ray experiences when his brother's like, hey, Dewey, let's swim in this. Or, I'm sorry, hey, Ray. Hey, Ray, let's go swimming in this wash basin. And then the kid steps into the wash basin, slips, and hits his neck on it and drowns. So, like, it's equally silly as the machete thing, only it actually happened. You also have the moment of discovery for the artist, recording to win over a producer in the recording studio, tour montages that involve hooking up, performances, making it big, drugs coinciding with a leap forward in their musical style,
and then rehab,
relationship strain, the cleanup and the big concert at the end, and then the freeze frame at the end with the text telling us what happened next. And it hits all of those so hard and so well that you really don't need to have seen a biopic before to be able to go into Ray and Walk the Line and watch it and be like, I know the beats that are going to happen in these movies, because that's how well it choreographs them.
No, I definitely was going through this and thinking about how they had all of these different things going on, but not only with those tropes, those constant musician biopic tropes that they had going on, but they also had used those as a setup for the running joke. Like, as you said, Ben, when Kristen Wiig's character has so many kids, but also like he's talking on the phone and he's womanizing and manizing, I guess, because mayonnaise?
Mayonnaising? I love it.
Mayonnaising?
I know. Wesley told me earlier he did not appreciate the penis that suddenly showed up in right next to Dewey Cox as he's talking to his wife.
I just didn't like it.
He didn't like it. Well, I thought it was funny. I enjoyed it. Not because, I don't know. Never mind.
Nobody read into this last minute.
Don't read into this. But, just having that setup of she's still saying the same joke of you're not going to make it, and having so many kids. But then I think one of the best setups of this entire act is the drugs and the bathroom scene.
That was probably the closest I came, because I was like, that's kind of clever.
Just smiling.
I smiled with my eyes.
Yeah,
okay.
For those who don't know, Tim Meadows is in the bathroom smoking weed the first time we see this clip. And Dewey walks in and he's like, oh, I don't want to do weed for this reason. And then Tim Meadows has a counter to every reason that Dewey doesn't want to do it. And it's always like the benefits of weed. Like, this is not a movie or a scene you would want to show to a group of students to be like, don't ever do weed. Because I wanted to start smoking after.
Yeah. He's like, I don't want a hangover. It doesn't give you one. It's like, well, I don't want to get addicted. He's like, it's not habit forming.
I don't want to overdose. You can't.
Yeah, and I just love how they build that throughout the entire movie. And not only that, but there's this short little ongoing joke of how are we supposed to follow that? Not only in the high school scene where Dewey has to follow like this really great band that's playing
Elvis
in high school, but then later in when he has to follow Elvis because Elvis is too tired. And I didn't know this, but that was Jack White.
Yes, it was.
It was fucking Jack White playing
hell of
Elvis.
a cameo.
Every person in this movie was famous to some degree. Like
Buddy Holly was Frankie Muniz.
That was so silly.
Going back to three that I don't know if we'll actually come back to, but the three Jewish guys who found Dewey.
I loved that.
Harold Ramis, Phil Rosenthal, and Martin Starr.
Mm-hmm. And their names in the movie
I didn't write that
had
down.
me laughing so hard. There was L'Haim.
Yeah,
and
L'Haim
I don't remember
and Hirschmoil Mazel Tov or something like that.
Just to touch on some of the performances before we move on to Act 2. Him taking over at the nightclub and singing the song in place of
Craig Robinson's character.
Craig Robinson's character made me laugh so hard. And that's like, I would consider that to be super edgy comedy, but I felt like it was done well enough where I was like, this is good. I would wonder what you guys' thoughts are on that.
Well, what's the difference between what's that line?
I don't know. I guess it's just like if it was bad comedy, I'd be like, this is in poor taste. But since it made me laugh, I don't know. It's like one of those things where the joke was like he's singing the part about like the song is You Have to Love the Negro Man, and he's singing Keith Robinson's song, and he's
Craig
doing
Robinson.
it as he would.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good commentary on how a lot of the musicians, the white musicians of that era, really like put themselves on the shoulders of black musicians to get ahead.
Yes.
Yes.
And for that reason, I thought it was more a smart commentary than something that
Okay.
could be viewed as like offensive.
I feel like that was happening subconsciously in my head, maybe.
Give yourself a lot of credit there.
I'm gonna give myself some credit there, but like I don't. Yeah. And then just to move on to the second performance, I loved like he's singing like take my hand, and like it's like super sexualized, and like everybody starts rioting in the crowd. And they're like, "This is the devil's music." It made me laugh so hard, and like that was a commentary on music in the 60s.
Yeah, Beatles mania, Elvis
yeah.
shaking his hips, that type of stuff.
Oh
funny.
no, my stars. Sorry, I'm getting into the Alabama life, I guess. I was talking to my husband Corbin earlier, and I was like, how do you do a Southern accent? He's like, well, you gotta talk with molasses in your mouth, like from The Office.
It's like Andy in The Office. Yep. I just watched that episode. There's been a murder.
Act 2 starts with Dewey meeting Darlene, who's played by Jenna Fisher, who wants to be a backup singer in his band.
Speaking of The Office.
Yeah, what a coincidence.
The two have an instant will they, won't they dynamic that is played out through the double entendre song Let's Duet. During their courtship, Darlene says that she can't have sex with him till they are married, so Dewey marries her, despite still being married to Edith. Edith walks in on Dewey and Darlene, and both women leave him. After being arrested for buying drugs from a cop, Dewey goes to rehab and kicks his drug habit, and Darlene returns to him. The two move to California, and Dewey begins to take on a persona similar to 1960s Bob Dylan, and we are treated to a protest song called Midget Man. On a spiritual trip to India, Dewey meets the Beatles, who he does LSD with. The LSD causes Dewey to become obsessed with the recording process and creating his masterpiece, which the rest of the band starts resenting him for, and the band ends up breaking up. Darlene leaves Dewey after he shows that he can't kick his LSD addiction, and he streaks through the streets of the town.
My
The
favorite
Beatles,
joke.
though.
Yeah,
The
the
Beatles.
Beatles cameo was amazing.
Who all was in the
It was
Beatles
Jack Black,
portrait?
Paul Rudd.
Rudd. Who else was
Jason
in it?
Jason
Schwartzman.
Schwartzman.
And Justin Long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was so spot on.
Yeah.
Hearing them do their
Hilarious.
accents did make me very happy. I didn't smile,
Liverpool.
but it made me happy.
Liverpool.
I actually had a problem with a lot of the cameos in this movie because it felt like the entire joke was, oh, we're the Beatles, or oh, I'm Buddy Holly. Like, there was no joke beyond just a famous person being a different famous person.
You're telling me that these jokes didn't have depth?
Sometimes jokes aren't supposed to have depth. I really like the bad trip with the Beatles, and I could see, that being more than just a cameo. Like, it was just a cameo, but those actors were in there for like 2 days or so, because that was like a large scene.
A big part.
And it was a big part.
Well, Ben, when you say that there are all these like famous cameos, are you talking about just the famous people in playing the actors in the movie, or are you talking about the famous people that were represented in the movie? Or are you talking about both? Because there was a lot.
Yeah, I'm
Of
talking
both of
about
those.
the famous people when they're playing famous people. So Jack White as Elvis, that one at least had a little bit of depth because they went into what Elvis's character was. But
Right,
Frankie
Kung Fu.
Muniz as Buddy Holly, it was basically like, oh, hey there, Buddy Holly. And that was it. That was the joke.
And they repeated his name like 80 times.
And in that Beatles scene, the guys playing the Beatles must have said, we're the Beatles, like 10 or 15 times.
Right. From Liverpool. I enjoyed it. I mean, it was campy, fun.
It's the best movie that's ever been done.
You
Poor
son of a
Wesley.
bitch.
All right, I got to get
Okay.
into my next hard soda.
Well, specifically the Beatles, I mean, I really liked it because I think they were a little bit up their ass, even though I'm a huge diehard Beatles fan. I really am. But when they went into the animation, when they are doing LSD together and they're tripping really hard, I thought that was such a creative use of parodying the Yellow Submarine animation, which is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
And I just had a great time, honestly. I didn't really think too hard about it. I just had a really nice time.
Yeah, I felt like they also did a great job of like doing their rift happening right before their very eyes. Like George Harrison's trying to get more songs in, and Jason Schwartzman just wants to party, and he's doing like the peace symbol by the Beatles.
Octopus Garden.
I just had a fun time with that entire scene, but I don't know. Nothing in this movie really rubbed me the wrong way. So
Yeah, I think that begs a question though of what makes a good parody, and what do you guys think? Like, there are parody movies out there that I would say are not good. Like, if you've ever seen any of the Friedberg and Seltzer movies, the epic movie, disaster movie, date movie, Meet the Spartans, those are trash. But then there's good parody movies, like I would say Not Another Teen Movie is a good parody, and the first Scary Movie is a good parody, and the Austin Powers movies are great parodies.
Right. I think what really defines a good parody movie is that understanding and respect of the thing that you're parodying. You know, there is that fundamental respect and understanding of it. I was going to throw out Spaceballs because, you know, that's a really good parody of Star Wars, but I think it happened so far away from when Star Wars happened initially that it was okay to parody it. Also, Mel Brooks had a pretty good standing in the world. But also, I think in this movie in particular, they don't really make Dewey Cox into a big cartoon. He's not just like this, I'm a fancy musician and I'm a caricature of these famous people. There's still that respect, even though they are making jokes about the biopic.
I think when you said there really makes a lot of sense for me with the time between what's being parodied and the release. So like this coming out 2 years after Walk the Line, it's just...
Was it really 2 years?
It's 2 years. So almost seems like trying to strike while the iron's hot versus doing something for the sake of it's funny. So when you have some time between and then those references don't feel like, hey, remember that thing. It's more of like a, hey, this is a thing that exists in a large group of movies.
I mean, the thing that stands up for me about this movie is like, I think that the entire soundtrack could be its own thing outside of the movie. John C. Reilly is just amazing. He's an amazing singer.
I was so impressed.
It's like one of those things where it's like, I was sending you guys all these links to like songs that weren't even in the movie, and he just sang song after song, and it's just like his voice is so good. And I don't know, like it felt like it was like a true representation, but at the same time also parody. So it was one of those things where it's like those two worlds met.
Matt, when you said that, it made me think that they really honored the music, you know, in this movie. You know, it wasn't just a joke. They actually, even though that the lyrics sometimes had the double meanings, double entendres, like Darlene, which was a parody or a mocking of Darlene, the character, but also Darlin', and Let's Duet, which was my favorite song in this act. But, you know, they really honored the music, and it felt fundamentally like it could have been something that people would have listened to during this time. And even now, like I would listen to the soundtrack and enjoy it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it definitely paid a lot of respect to the songs of those times and tried to be authentic in that way, where the lyrics could tell the comedic story, but also rely on the fact that the songs themselves are catchy and time appropriate and age appropriate.
They also had the different styles. That Bob Dylan song is so good. Just outright, that's like its own hilarious thing. All right, now I'm just going to take us right into Act 3, guys. Dewey is visited by the ghost of Nate, Jonah Hill, in rehab, who tells him he needs to get his shit together. Dewey cleans himself up, but unfortunately, he can't write songs anymore, so he decides to start doing variety television shows of the 70s. The ghost of Nate returns again and urges Dewey to reconcile with his father, but they end up having a machete fight, and his dad gets cut in half, where he then forgives Dewey right before he dies. A distraught Dewey destroys literally everything in his house, from furniture to silverware to his Zen garden.
And sinks.
And sinks, where he then reconnects with all of his kids. I forget how many kids he has, but it's a lot. Which leads to the healing of his soul. Darlene returns to him, as well as his sense of smell. They award him with the Lifetime Achievement Award, where his band gets back together, and at the concert he plays "It's a Beautiful Ride" and immediately dies 3 minutes after. The end.
So I really struggled with this third act because I didn't feel like it was nearly as funny as the two that came before it. I thought it lost a lot of its creative edge. And as I was reflecting on that, my mind went to the fact that a lot of the comedies I really like don't really have very strong third acts. So why do you guys think comedies lose their momentum in the third act?
Yeah, I think you and I talked a little bit about this offline, Ben, but I think that a lot of the job of a comedy is that it gets free reign in the beginning. You know, you're creating this world, you're telling this story, and you could go any direction. But the problem with the third act is that you have to wrap all these things up and tie a bow on it. Having said that, I would say that there were a lot of things in the third act that made me laugh, but I think you are right. Like there was a lot of there was like a dragging where, you know, he's getting back together with Darlene. His sense of smell is returning. It's like I didn't necessarily, some of those jokes didn't land for me, but during "It's a Beautiful Ride," I think it was a wonderful send off where there was a montage of him recounting his life, and there's also that great joke where he says he doesn't want to succumb to the Temptations, and then it cuts away to the Temptations singing their doo-wop. But during "It's a Beautiful Ride," there's that montage where he's shaking his baby and kissing it, and there's all sorts of like funny cutaways that just landed for me. But I would agree with you generally. Like the third act has a lot of work to do in a lot of comedy.
You know, I was thinking about this question while you were talking, Matt, but I guess I kind of want to go back to what I was saying earlier, that this movie in particular, you know, it doesn't have a strong third act in the sense that it's funny. Like there's still humorous moments in it, but it's not as funny because I think at this point they're like, oh no, he's a real person, even though he's fake, and he has this real gain. And they're trying to combine. And again, I haven't seen a lot of comedies. You guys know this. I haven't seen a lot of movies.
Well, let me add comedies to Emily's list of movies that she has to see.
Shut up, Wesley. But I was going to say that they don't want to represent him as just a caricature of a musician. And maybe that in some comedies, things shouldn't be in 3 acts. You know, it's typically done in a 3-act format, but they need to sum everything up, and it becomes a rushed process of trying to resolve all of the conflicts in a productive way.
I want to go ahead and say, like, Emily, you kind of made me think about that in terms of like 3 acts in comedies. Think about, have you seen Hamilton 2 before? That's a 5-act comedy.
I have
Hamlet 2.
Hamlet 2. What did I say?
Hamilton.
Hamilton 2. Oh my God. I need more alcohol. Jesus Christ. I love that movie. The 5th act in Hamlet 2 is so fucking funny. And that's just because they release everything they've been leading up to.
So maybe it's just the structure.
Right.
Man, what year did that movie come out? Because I would much rather talk about that.
I think that was 2008.
Shoot. Let's do 2008.
Wesley.
I wanted to know a little bit about how this movie changed the musician biopic, because, you know, with the recent development of Bohemian Rhapsody coming out and Rocket Man coming out, I was just curious, has this movie changed? You know, they made fun of Walk the Line so much that have things changed?
The answer is no. Bohemian Rhapsody is complete and utter trash. And it follows the exact same formula that Walk Hard did. And a lot of the other biopics that have come out since have done the same. You've got Straight Outta Compton, Get On Up, movies that still continue to follow this format despite Walk Hard skewering it, I feel, really effectively, to the point where it should show people how to stop making biopics like this. And Rocket Man, I feel, didn't make one like this. Like, Rocket Man really leaned into being a musical instead of just a biopic, and I think it was much better for it. But I don't think that Rocket Man did that because of Walk Hard.
I feel, wasn't Straight Outta Compton well received though, Ben?
Straight Outta Compton, I mean, it was definitely well done. A lot of these movies are well done. Like Walk the Line is a really good movie.
Yeah.
Straight Outta Compton, just because the formula is there doesn't mean that you can't do the formula well. Bohemian Rhapsody had a lot of issues with it that I'll save that for when we're 50 years old and talking about 2018 as our year of movies. But no, Bohemian Rhapsody just had so many problems with it that go beyond just the structure of it.
Okay, so then I guess I was thinking more that this movie, from the beginning to the end, everything that they try to do it in this clean 3-act narrative, right? It's very structured. And I think that they go back to this structure with all these different musician tropes because they don't know how to condense a real person into a 3-act narrative, essentially. And so I agree. I haven't seen all of Bohemian Rhapsody, but I've seen clips from it. But I've seen Rocket Man, and I thought they did a fantastic job of, they still had those like, oh, he dealt with drugs, he went to rehab because that's what really happened to him. And they had this freeze frame at the end explaining a little bit about who he is now. But I think in reality, you can't condense a real person into a movie this way. And so maybe Walk Hard addressed that.
Yeah, and I think you make a good point where the best biopics, and I'm going to talk about ones outside of musicians, but just any biopic, they do it best when they don't try to cover the entire scope of someone's life, but just a snapshot of their life. Like Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood came out last year, and that was Tom Hanks as Mr. Rogers. And even though the movie wasn't about Mr. Rogers, you got a sense of who he was and why he was so important to people. And I think the most successful biopics do that, where it's just like, we're going to just look at him from this year to this year, or this event to this event, rather than birth to death.
Yeah, that instead of that 100-foot level, we get more of like a zoomed in focus. I like that.
So when this movie came out, it was not successful.
What?
Wesley's not surprised.
It only made $20 million at the box office, which compared to other movies like Talladega Nights or Step Brothers, which were made the year before this and the year after this, those movies made in the hundreds of millions, and this one like barely cracked 20.
Will Ferrell.
Do you think it's just Will Ferrell? You think that's it?
Yeah. John C. Reilly is incredible. There's no doubt in my mind he's been in a lot of my favorite movies, but he doesn't have and especially at this time, I don't think he has I don't know what the word I'm looking for, the crowd, the
draw.
Doesn't bring people into the movie theaters. Doesn't mean he's less funny. I think we could have a whole long discussion on who's funnier between Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly, but I just don't think they had the big draw.
Well, you all are starting this podcast or doing this podcast because 2007 was the best year for movies, or one of them, right? So when this came out, it was December 2007. What other movies were out during this time?
Yeah, you brought up December, and December is usually saved for Oscar movies. Like, that's when all the big Oscar movies come out. And I think this movie in particular was hurt by having that release date because it was released Christmas, December 21st.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I knew it was December, but geez.
December 21st, like that Christmas week is usually saved for family movies,
right,
and for Oscar movies. So this one, I feel if it had been released in the middle of the summer, would have made a lot more money and found a lot bigger audience than it did because of its release date.
Right. And then Wesley also said that it might have just been too soon to walk the line.
No, that's a great point that I hadn't considered.
I think a lot of people enjoy that though. Like there's stuff, because one of the other parody movies we mentioned was Scary Movie, which I haven't looked it up, but that didn't come out too far after Scream.
It was 4 or 5 years.
Right. So I think some
Scream.
people, I don't think that hurts a lot of people's wanting to go see it. I just think that that's a great point that it came out during a period of a lot of better movies.
Yeah. And it went after the Jews so hard. And we know
that's why it's a Christmas movie.
Everybody goes on Christmas. That's common. All the Jews go out to movies on Christmas. At least all the ones I know.
Well, and Wesley, you mentioned how Scary Movie came out 4 or 5 years after Scream. Well, Disaster Movie, which is one that I think is maybe the worst movie ever made, actually was parodying stuff that hadn't even been released in theaters yet when they started making it. Like, the writers of the movie saw the trailer for Juno and added the character of Juno into the movie before Juno had even hit theaters.
Holy cow.
Wow.
Seriously?
Yep.
Insane.
Oh my God.
Strike while that fire's hot.
Well, I just wanted to add to this because I was reading some things online and I found this really great article from Rolling Stone in 2018 by Alan Scherstl. And he said that some of the sharpest, funniest scenes play out like the filmmakers took script pages of Walk the Line and highlighted every cliche and then doodled dicks in the margins for good measure, which I just loved. But then he also talked about how he thinks this really was too soon for people. It was ahead of its time. And like Wesley said, it just didn't have that same effect that it could have had to, I don't know, maybe smarter audiences later on. We're a little bit smarter now. Wouldn't you agree?
Hell yeah. I know I am.
Oh, God.
No, that's a great point, though.
Hey, Matt, why don't you give us your review?
All right.
Since you're so smart now.
Oh, hell yeah. And
Let's hear this Smarty Pants review.
boy, I have to pee so bad.
Oh,
I'm going to use that. John C. Reilly is nothing short of amazing in this musical comedy where he showcases his humor and his voice. The supporting cast also shines brilliantly with the brilliant joke writing and snappy storytelling. There's also a ton of unexpected and funny cameos from the Beatles to Elvis that will make you cry laughing. This is the perfect musical comedy parody that has an excellent original soundtrack that could stand up even on its own. I give this movie 5 out of 5 broken sinks. A perfect score.
you said the perfect musical comedy parody. Is this better than This Is Spinal Tap?
It's a different. I mean, they're. I don't know. We're comparing
He's
apples to
floundering.
oranges.
He doesn't get it.
Apples to oranges, baby.
Okay, Emily.
I forgot to write a review, but I really enjoyed this movie. I loved watching it. I don't think I will watch it very many times after this. It's not something that I want to put on and see very many times because I think the jokes will, as funny as they are, they did surprise me. But generally, I'll just give it a 7 out of 10 halved children.
Oh, that's good. I'm going to go next because I want to hear Wesley's last since he didn't like this movie. Walk Hard starts strong by leaning into being a parody of Walk the Line and Ray before losing its way in the third act by trying to focus on its own story. The lyrics to the songs are well written, and the melodies are fun approximations of the songs of the time. The over-reliance on cameos for the sake of cameos ends up hurting the movie, as the best comedy comes from the skewering of the biopic formula and not the skewering of individual performers, which tends to be lazy. 2 wrong kids dying out of 4.
Wow. Yeah, we're gonna go with mine last, and Matt, I want you to really focus that pee energy on my
Hurry
review.
up!
Okay, really take this one real nice and slow because I can see Matt
you
wriggling.
son of a bitch.
Writing a review of a movie that tells you every joke they're going to do before they do it feels like the equivalent of telling somebody that the moldy back of the refrigerator meatloaf is probably not going to sit well in their stomach. Just entertaining enough to not make me furious, not funny enough to elicit a single smirk. Now, my rating Emily just took, which was originally 1 upper halved Cox torso out of 2, but with her saying hers, I came up with another one. John C Reilly.
Yes, applaud that. That was
Beautiful.
And now it's time to play Battle of the Half-Twits. I will introduce 5 rounds of questions to our drinking buddies here. Let them try to convince me who is the smartest this week, and after that, I will tell them which one is wrong. Emily will be helping me probe deeper and keep the train on the tracks. Every question, the winner will be getting 1 point. Second place will get 0. I will be more interested in creative and entertaining answers. And after the champion emerges with both legs attached to his torso, they will announce which movie the loser must watch and live tweet next week. So Half-Twits, are you ready?
That's right.
Oh, so ready.
Oh, goody. So the loser of this first question is going to be forced to immediately take a shot. So what's in the cup?
What's in the cup? Sorry. Same thing as before earlier.
Just more vodka.
Vodka.
I moved on to a chocolate peanut butter porter from Waconia Brewing, and I've got about half left, so I'm going to chug the rest if I lose.
Oh, gross.
Oh, that's a bold transition from cream soda Goldschlager whipped cream shot.
My dude's gonna be puking.
If we can get that on mic, that'd be preferred. All right, so this movie came out only 2 years after Walk the Line, which is a funnier version of Johnny Cash's life story. What current musician most deserves a mocking or parody movie made about them, and what would it look like? We're going to start with Matt this week.
Chocolate Rain Guy. Why? There's never been a movie made about a one-hit YouTube wonder, so we would get to explore the 15 minutes of fame in the 21st century. Tay-Zon Day strikes internet gold April 22nd, 2007 with his hit Chocolate Rain, which has been played over 126 million times.
Would you sing that for us just real quick?
Chocolate Rain, I hope more time gets added to my answer.
Can
Chocolate
you sing
Rain.
that less, please?
The song is a metaphor for systematic racism against the African Americans in America. So, Tay-Zon Day being a Minnesota native, I picture this movie being a mix of The Mighty Ducks and That Thing You Do. In the first act, we see Tay kind of going about his regular life near and around the Mall of America, and somebody dumps a slushie on him from way up above in the food court. We would then return to his iconic bedroom where he first taped Chocolate Rain, and the first drum loop would be way too slow. And his best friend, Jay, would encourage him to sing much faster with a faster drum loop, leading us to the current version of Chocolate Rain. Later on in the film, we would see them falling out. Tay-Zon Day's internet fame has gone to his head after making appearances on The Opie and Anthony Show, Attack of the Show, Best Week Ever, Lily Allen and Friends, Jimmy Kimmel Live, Tosh.0, and Murray. Jay can't believe his best friend would blow him off on his birthday, leaving him stranded at the Como Zoo and Conservatory by himself.
That's by my house. Sorry.
Yeah, these jokes are really going to land for a national audience.
Minnesota, baby. Tay-Zon Day would learn that Jay helped him become the sensation he was, and he would eventually reconcile, and Jay would become his YouTube manager, helping him grow his channel to what it is today. It's about 1 million subscribers with covers of hit songs like the Pokemon theme and Be Prepared from The Lion King. Here would be like a line from the movie. They told me to never trust a label, and I'm beginning to believe him.
So the only thing in this movie that had anything to do with Mighty Ducks was MOA, Mall of America.
The Minnesota references, baby. Come on.
So
the Como Zoo, Mall of A.
Did they go to the Como Zoo in Mighty Ducks?
No.
Matt, has it been a while since you've been in Minnesota?
Minnehaha Falls.
I'll give you points for that one.
The big spoon and cherry. Come on, baby.
You don't live here anymore. It's Ben's turn.
The musician that most deserves a parody movie about them is Britney Spears. Britney has been in the music business for over 20 years and started off as a child actor. She's transformed from bubblegum teen to hypersexualized young woman to crazy person and finally to Vegas star, which would make for a great story arc. Plus, most of her songs have titles that are ripe for parody and would be parodied by playing into the idea of overtly sexualizing her even more so than she was. Think of Hit Me Baby One More Time, I'm Not a Girl, Slave for You, and Toxic. A good main character name for this movie would need to play into the dichotomy of Britney as pure and sexualized from when she first appeared on the music scene. My parody will follow the life of Chastity Bones. My first act scene would be where she's discovered at a sexiest toddler pageant, an opportunity to also skewer toddlers in tiaras and kids' beauty pageants. My third act scene would be her in recovery following her mental breakdown with a shaved head, talking to other real former child actors about the hardships of growing up in the spotlight. Along the way, we also see parodies of musicians around her. The boy band closest to her, In Step. Her rival, Santa Maria Dominguez Gonzalez Martinez. And a sexual pursuer named John Mayer. Here's an example of a line of dialogue. This is a producer of her music video and Chastity talking back and forth. So the producer says, Chastity, we need more cleavage. And she says, ass or breast? He says, go with your heart. And she says, so breast then? Lastly, I would have Chastity played by the talented actress Florence Pugh, who I think can capture the sweet and the sexual, and who, based on her Instagram, has excellent comedic instincts. The title of my movie is Just the Tip. As in tip of the icebergs, you perverts.
So I really wanted to have this question kind of be modeled after the inspiration of Popstar and the Justin Bieber parody. And so you both delivered, in my opinion. That was fantastic. Wesley, what did you think?
I don't know enough about Tay-Zon Day. Is this a... It seems like Ben's is more of a parody, where yours is based on more fact.
Yeah, his is like a biopic.
Yeah.
This is fucked up. You don't know about Tayson Dave, Minnesota native?
I certainly
We're not
didn't.
going to start that, and I'm also
I
not
certainly
native from
didn't.
Minnesota. But Ben, you hooked me with the rotating cast of other people in the pop star young people life that I think would be perfect for a parody. So this one's going to Ben.
What?
All right.
Oh my gosh.
I'm going to go down the hatch with this.
I actually would have chosen Matt over this one. But I guess because he's a real person, I guess makes sense
It's
that it's not a parody.
Batch.
It didn't help
That would have
that
been my
you
line.
didn't help that Matt really screwed up all the Minnesota. I got really excited when you said Mighty Ducks, and then there was nothing about hockey.
It was literally just the MOA, and I wanted to tie it into
It was
Minnesota.
ripe for parody with a hockey YouTube star. Drop the ball. I'm disappointed in you.
Drop the puck.
Oh, there we go. Much better.
All right.
All right. Question 2 is going to be a debate style question where you'll have a chance to argue against your opponent's answer as well as defend your answer from their attack. I would like to hear both of you kerfuffle over what comedic actor had the greatest last decade.
When you think about the trajectory that Chris Pratt's career has been on over the past 10 years, it's truly remarkable. He started the decade as a secondary character who was only supposed to be in one season of Parks and Rec, and ended up as one of the highest paid actors in Hollywood, holding up multiple franchises on his now burly shoulders. From 2011 to 2013, he played supporting roles in 3 consecutive Best Picture nominees: Moneyball, Zero Dark 30, and Her. 2014 was the year that he exploded with Lego Movie and Guardians of the Galaxy, followed the next year by Jurassic World. He is consistently funny in all of his movies, and the movies benefit from him and his star power. His movies consistently make money and are profitable, and he has mostly avoided that box office or fan support backlash that many rising stars encounter. Plus, he has made the transition from schlub to chiseled sex symbol without losing his sense of humor. When it comes to where the actor was at the start of the decade to the end, Chris Pratt gained more than any other actor last decade.
I've never heard the word schlub before. Matt?
I chose Bradley Cooper. Similarly, I'm going to give a backstory on Bradley Cooper's career before 2010. He started his career in 2001 with Wet Hot American Summer. He'd further develop with Wedding Crashers in 2005, eventually to his breakthrough role, similarly to Chris Pratt, in 2009 with The Hangover. Now, I'm only giving you this backdrop as a lead-in to answering our question of what I consider to be the greatest last decade by a comedic actor. Having his breakthrough happen before 2010 lends itself to Bradley Cooper as the answer to this question. He went from relatively unknown comedic actor to being a serious acting and directing superstar, with his body of work being Limitless, Silver Linings Playbook, American Hustle, Guardians of the Galaxy, American Sniper, and then his directorial debut with A Star is Born in 2018. He's also become a serious Broadway actor and was nominated for a Tony Award with his performance in Elephant Man in 2014. He was named Sexiest Man in 2011, dubbed Man of the Year by GQ in 2011 as well, and he has universal sex appeal, and unlike Chris Pratt, he's always had it, baby. Women want him, men want to be him, but here's the kicker, he's also very funny. He's hosted SNL and made multiple appearances. He brings a unique sense of humor to every role he's ever taken on in the last decade, from his voice acting in Guardians to his more serious role as Chris Kyle in American Sniper, where he brings humility and humor to a serious film. Got $1 million smile, he's super funny, and he's had the greatest decade, period. Now, just to knock Chris Pratt down a peg or two,
You can't.
they're both hot.
All right, Ben.
Well said, Matt.
Bradley Cooper entered last decade as an undisputed star due to the first Hangover movie. His award success, sure, is impressive, but it's been at the expense of his comedic work. He's mostly left that behind in favor of working continually with Clint Eastwood and David O. Russell, plus directing his own movie, as you mentioned, in The Star is Born. For this reason, it's difficult for me to say that Bradley Cooper is much of a comedic actor anymore. Plus, the dude was always hot is not a pro because he probably has an ego. You didn't attack mine, so I have nothing to defend.
Matt, you got anything to defend there?
I'm rubber, you're glue. All of your arguments bounce off me and stick to you. They have a lot of the same problems in that Chris Pratt made his breakthrough with Parks and Rec in 2009 with his motherfucking... Yeah, he broke through in 2009 as well. So they're the same guy. It's just, who do you like more? That's my argument.
That is slander to say that he was motherfucking in 2009.
Oh my God. Now I'm just thinking about the video from Lonely Island.
Yeah, Mother
and
Lover.
Justin Timberlake. Okay, well, first off, I'm so surprised that neither of you picked like Kristen Bell or someone, but whatever. Let's move on, Wesley.
I thought of picking Melissa McCarthy.
Oh, she would have been good.
I thought about picking Gwyneth Paltrow.
Well, stop.
Goop.
The listeners can't see this, but there was a very specific rule in the question where they had to be in a Guardians movie. Just kidding. Way to go. You're both very creative. Question 3. One of the running jokes through this movie I almost smiled at was the way Dewey is introduced to each new drug and how it affects his career and writing style for future songs. So please regale us with a song by Dewey Cox, original about drugs. Matt, we're going to start with you. Oh boy.
GHB, PCP, stranger in a bathroom, heroin, Berlin, angel dust invasion, horns of methamphetamine, British beetle, ketamine, Ole Miss, John Glenn, doors to deceive us, Coke, Paul, Malcolm, meth, British havoc, liquid X, DMT, blown away. Is there more special K? We didn't start the fire. It was always burning since the world's been turning. We didn't start the fire.
You didn't even change the chorus. Matt.
No, we didn't light it, but we tried to find it.
Done.
Oh my God.
Unless there's more. Nope, that's it. All right, perfect.
Nope.
Okay. Mine's more of just an original tune also, so I'm not trying to mimic anything. Oh, here we go.
What?
Pass me the needle, 'cause I'm gonna sew a beautiful dress in the color of snow. Blow in the powder around the rail. Leave nothing behind as I journey this trail. Blaze forth a path through the weeds as I mow. Playing the dope who just wants to go slow. Dancing round nude in the acid rain. All of these memories numbing my pain. And this coldness of feelings bereft is the only sensation that I have left. I peer toward my bag only to find that I am empty of money and wine. So please be a friend and lend me a few, 'cause I really don't want to have to hurt you. So give me your fucking money. No, not a little bit of it, all of it. Do not get in the way of me getting my fucking fix. I need more and I need it now before I get the fucking shakes. Get the fuck out of here and don't come back till you have my fucking drugs. Any fucking kind. It doesn't fucking matter.
Wow.
And was that last part the chorus?
Yes, it was.
You guys didn't ask Ben if he had any more.
Because he went for like a full minute. You did not.
I do have to ask, Matt, how much did you have to practice that?
I put myself on mute earlier in the podcast to practice the chorus.
I appreciate the dedication.
Wow. I did not
good.
expect. I mean, I expected Matt's, but I did not expect that, Ben.
What a twist.
What a twist.
Question 4 will also be a debate style question. Matt's favorite tropes in any movie is when male genitalia is heavily involved. Emily, what were your favorite penis-related jokes in this movie?
Oh my gosh, this movie had so many penis jokes. The first line that I giggled at was, "Guys, I need cocks." That was when they were looking for Dewey.
Wow.
But later, at the end of the movie, there's the part where they're like, "Yeah, cocks and little nutsack. It's quite a package." I just lost it. So
Low-hanging fruit.
yeah.
So Matt and Ben, what is the best penis joke in any movie?
I picked the scene in Austin Powers: The Spy Who Shagged Me, which is the radar scene where Dr. Evil's ship appears on the radar and it looks like a dick. And then the scene then jumps right before a character is about to describe the ship as a dick to another scene whose dialogue starts with a dick euphemism. A quick scene then plays out where those people spot the ship and it's tossed to another scene with a different dick euphemism. It does this multiple times before transitioning back to the original scene. The scene is so successful that it gets a callback at the end of the movie where it does the entire sequence of jokes again. This is the best dick joke in a movie because of the way that it plays with audience expectations, with the cuts to different scenes being so jarring that you can't help but laugh at the way they're transitioning and what they're transitioning to. It's a fast comedy that doesn't leave you time to get comfortable in the new place you've just been thrown. It's get in, make your joke, and get out. Hearing different names and euphemisms for dicks is really funny, as many of the words are funny sounding. It's sixth grade humor, but there's a place for that type of juvenile thinking, and that place is my heart.
Yeah, what's yours?
So I ended up deciding to go with Seth's notebook where he drew dicks in Superbad. Now, mine is completely different from Ben's in that Ben's is just different names for dicks, and it's kind of the same joke repeating itself, whereas Seth's notebook ends up being more of like a visual story where the dicks are holding guns and stuff. And even Seth adds a little bit of color to it and saying like, it's not even that weird. 8% of kids do it. There's all sorts of color and commentary as part of it. And then furthermore, at the end of the movie, it comes back as well, where we get to see the credits sequence and all the dicks in his notebook. We get to delve further and further down this world of dicks in their world. So I chose a dick joke that I felt would be more visual and interesting to me, as opposed to one that was more reliant on the different names like Johnson, Wang, balls, nuts, and etc.
Do you want to attack Ben at all?
That's what I just did.
That's
yeah,
it?
He
Wow.
said he'd much rather look at a dick than hear about one.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Ben. That's you.
The story of the girl finding the initial dick picture in Superbad is a funny joke, and I appreciate the context provided with the preface of him having this dick drawing obsession. But dicks are better heard than seen. A good verbal dick joke is 10 times better than a visual dick joke. The dick drawing thing never gets brought up again throughout the entire movie except the end credits, which makes it not even part of the character arc. It's introduced as being formative to Seth's character, but has no bearing on his character arc or the plot that follows. You should never shoehorn in a dick, and that's what this dick joke is, shoehorned in. And while it's funny, it lacks the juvenile humor to make it truly accessible for all.
I disagree wholeheartedly. Austin Powers has a very visual dick joke that I enjoyed quite much more. Those aren't words that should go together. But, you know, there's the silhouette of Austin Powers and the baby holding the apple. I felt like Austin Powers had so many better visual dick jokes, and I am more of a visual learner than a hearing learner. So that's what I enjoy in my dick jokes.
That's Goldmember.
Oh, I know. I'm just talking in general.
Oh, you're taking my movie and just saying all three movies are exactly the same.
No, Matt's only point is that he wants to look at dicks.
That's accurate.
Oh, let him eat cake. Cock.
See, I didn't get that joke. Now, if you could have drawn that, that would have been
That
great.
is the end of the debate. Sorry, Matt. The end. No more.
I've had enough of that.
I really have.
All right, everybody's favorite question. We all know what it is. We're just going to cut right to the chase. Pitch me a reboot, prequel, or sequel for Walk Hard. Matt, you're first.
Okay, so I chose to do a sequel. I want to see more about Nate. The wrong kid died. But what happened to him? I want to follow his ghost adventures in heaven. Jonah Hill would return in this comedy, Float Soft, the Nathan Cox story. Now I know what you're thinking. This movie doesn't have any legs, and you're right. It's because our protagonist was chopped in half with a machete. Now, doesn't that mean this movie wouldn't have any heart? This movie would take place in the afterlife, and we would have a complete and interesting new world to build out, kind of like that show, The Good Place. We would reference Walk Hard jokes very early in the first act about him not being able to jerk off with his ghost hand, but the crux of the story would hinge on him helping people realize their potential by returning to Earth in ghost form. You know, kind of like an angel gets its wings. The story would climax with Jonah Hill. He would kind of get his wings, but it would be more like he got his regular hand back in heaven to be able to jerk off again.
That's his reward. That's what the whole
Yeah, that's
his arc.
is.
Yeah.
that's my
I like it.
that's my third act climax, baby.
And so Jonah
What a
Hill,
climax.
you're reusing Jonah Hill because he plays the ghost of Nate in the original movie.
Correct.
Okay.
That is
Good
Wow.
gravy. All right, Ben.
I think it's really disappointing when well-cast cameos don't get the proper service from the script to make them truly outstanding. And sadly, that's what happens to the Beatles in Walk Hard. So I want Jack Black, Paul Rudd, Jason Schwartzman, and Justin Long to come back and be the version of the Beatles in a remake parody of A Hard Day's Night. For those who haven't seen A Hard Day's Night, it is a mock documentary that the Beatles made in the 60s. It's about them right after they've come to America and features them playing comedic versions of themselves. So our 4 comedy actors would be 40-somethings, finally finding success with their pop songs for young teens and coming to America in the 1960s. All of the songs would have an additional layer of cringe to them due to the age difference between them and their intended audience. And the lyrics would be suggestive and sail right over the fans' heads within the movie. We follow them as they run around being silly in America, chased by mobs of fans and becoming accustomed to fame, while still maintaining their cheeky Britishness. The
Isn't that
title of the
cool?
movie is Hard from Day to Night.
Oh, boy.
I
You
don't
guys-
have anything for you two.
Bringing
I'm
it
gonna
again.
shake your hand right now, Ben.
All right, guys. So there were some pretty solid answers on both sides. I really did like all of them. I really don't think there was a bad answer today, but there was definitely a clear winner. We already scored the first question for Ben.
Which I'm still shocked. I'm sorry, Ben. I liked Matt's answer better.
That's all right.
Wes doesn't know Tayson Day. That's all it is.
I didn't
You
either.
don't know Minnesota. Like, so if you're gonna, never mind. We already debated about that. So, question 2: which comedic actor had the greatest last decade? Ben, I just can't argue with Chris Pratt. Like, his 2010 to 20 now is just pretty epic. And Matt, I think you kind of shot yourself in the foot by talking about how much he had accomplished beforehand and the last decade, especially since I believe your last thing you cited was 2015. So, like, what's he been doing for the last 5 years?
To be fair, he's talked about Star is Born. That was the one he
Yeah.
directed in 2018.
But he
Okay.
didn't really talk about the comedic parts of that. He just kind of
That's
went
true.
through things.
Where you absolutely shot yourself in the other foot was your defense was both are hot. So I did like the I am rubber and you are glue. Excellent attempt.
Thank you.
Except it didn't really apply to anything.
No, it
that
doesn't,
I
but it
said.
makes sense why this
Okay.
is his favorite movie. So Ben gets a point for that one as well. Now, Matt, you were winning this question.
For number 3.
Yeah, sorry. So question 3 was to write an original Dewey Cox song about drugs. And Matt, you absolutely were winning this question until Ben flipped the switch on that last verse. I had trouble containing myself because even though I can see the answers, I don't read them. And that came out of nowhere and was the most unexpected thing, is more unexpected than anything that happened in Walk Hard. So,
And honestly, Ben, you had a very repetitive melody that you were using. And so I was kind of like, okay, well, he wrote his own song.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it just came out of nowhere and
you really lulled
slapped me in the
into
face.
a
false sense of security.
Exactly. Oh, Ben got that one as well. Question 4: what is the best penis joke in a movie? 2 very solid answers. Like, I when I first read this question, because Emily, you wrote this as well, I believe.
I did.
Yeah. So when I read it, I was like, I don't know, but apparently that's because I don't find penis jokes funny. But after reading both your answers, I was like, oh man, those are solid, top-notch choices. I can't think of other ones. So I guess you just picked the cream of the crop. I don't know if that's innuendo or not.
Your call.
Yeah, I think, Matt, you didn't really attack Ben's answer for anything other than it wasn't your preference. So this one's going to Ben as well. So on to question 5.
Also, even though dicks are funny to look at, they're not that funny to look at.
Well, rewatch Superbad.
Never seen it.
We will watch it. It's 2007.
Have you really never seen it? I mean,
I've never seen it.
I
Are you surprised, Wesley?
Yes, I'm going to be surprised at every single one of these, but I don't know if I need to write that on the list or not since we'll be doing it here. Anywho, back to business. What we are all here to care about and finding out who won this match today.
Oh,
this
well, what
epic
is it
battle.
scored so far?
I mean,
The audience is on my side.
so far, I think Ben has.
They all
one,
think you're
two-
bullshit, Wesley.
Write me about it. Tell me why I'm wrong.
4-0 right now.
Yeah, it's
and
4-0
for
right
Ben.
now. But who knows? You turn it around. This last one is worth 5 points, right?
Oh, what?
Matt, the name, the title, Float Soft, Nathan Cox story. Oh man, that hit me good. And the movie Has No Legs. Just,
It was
beautiful.
beautiful.
It was beautiful. You nailed it. And Ben, you obviously had this picked out before you knew my love of that Beatles scene. So that really, I agree with. I would love to see that movie because I think that those 4 actors were phenomenal. But it doesn't do enough for me to beat Matt's just brilliant pitch. So Matt's getting this one for a not shutout of Ben 4, Matt 1. So Ben, why don't you let poor Matt know what he's got
What
to
is that
live tweet.
poor bastard gonna have to watch?
Oh my God. It's so hard to live tweet these fucking awful films.
3rd week in a row.
Yeah, we're gonna keep the biopic theme, and he's gonna live tweet Bohemian Rhapsody because I'd really like to see him react to the filmmaking in that movie as someone who went to film school.
Have you seen it, Matt?
Is that another movie? Is that another movie I have to buy on some fucking streaming service? You fucking son of a bitch.
I had to rent this movie, so I think that's only fair. Have you seen it, Matt?
No, I haven't.
Okay, may God have mercy on your soul.
Ben, what are we watching next week?
Yeah, so next week we are going to watch a beautiful, buzzworthy movie. We're gonna watch B-Movie with
Another
Jerry
movie I
Seinfeld.
haven't seen.
Oh,
I'm
well,
optimistic.
You are in for a treat.
Jerry
Oh,
Seinfeld.
really?
What else do you need?
Not him. Thanks very much.
So yeah, join us next week. We'll watch B-Movie together, and you'll hear us talk and debate. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe if you feel so inclined. Rate us 5 stars on iTunes, and thank you so much for listening. Have a good week.
Tell all your friends.
Tell your
We
friends.
appreciate
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Yay.
Tell Wesley how wrong he was this week.
I would love to hear it. Bye.
Bye.